Hey, and welcome to this episode of Co-Creating with AI. I'm Martin, and with me, as always, is my co-host Rasmus. How are you today, Rasmus?
I'm good, a bit tired, and yeah, I mean, we didn't prep for this more than like 1 minute,
Yeah.
but hopefully it will be a fun exploration like last time.
Yes.
And also, I will tell you that we now have our first external guest confirmed, who I just
Yeah.
had onboarded to our product yesterday and chatted with, who's a very experienced tech entrepreneur, like a CTO, over many, many years, and built a very, very exciting database that we're actually using ourselves. And that's built on kind of the same foundational principles that, of course, we're building on. So he has a lot of interesting thoughts. I think you'll enjoy it as well.
Yeah. Awesome. Really looking forward to that. It's been a really hectic week. Lots of stuff to do, and um, nice weather, and the family pulling in the other direction. And it's a lot of fun to see everything that is happening now in the product and the company.
Yeah, I mean it's so hectic that I even forgot to ask back, "How are you?" But luckily you answered that
Yeah.
anyhow, and didn't point out my insensitivity.
Yeah, no problem. It's all good. Yeah, so today we're going to talk about what does the future look like? What? How do we know when we're there with actual co-creation with AI? What would that look like? And that's a super exciting topic for us to talk about, and we're going to keep it short and to the point. And I don't know, like, do you want to start off with defining this? We talked last episode about a sort of autonomy as being part of co-creation. Are there any more definitions to give to frame this topic of
Yeah, I think yeah.
what will it look like? What will co-creation with AI look like in the future?
Yeah, I mean, let's set the stage for what makes it possible, which I think we actually covered quite well last time. Um, and I mean, the first part is AI native, right?
Yeah.
And why is that important? Well, with our definition, AI native again means that whatever tool you're using, whatever thing you're doing, both you and the AI have access to the tools. And if we
Mm,
think about that in software, that's just like we gave the example of Adobe going there slowly with their Firefly, and most likely will
mm.
expand so that the AI can utilize the full power of
Hopefully, yeah,
Adobe
yeah.
Photoshop. Yeah, I mean that would be my guess in the way they're
Mm,
going, and of course we're going there, straight to the point with Multiply.
yeah.
But so that's the first thing, right? Because I mean, how are we going to paint together if we don't have both have access to the colors and the brush and the
Hmm.
canvas? So
Mm,
that's kind of the first thing, and then the second thing is of course autonomy, because the difference between using a tool, in my opinion, using the brush and painting together with you, is that you are autonomous. You
mm,
you are a person. You will do unexpected things. You will um, respond to the things I'm doing, and you will take initiative and come with ideas and work proactively on the painting.
mm,
So those are two like foundational building blocks, which makes sense, right? We just think about the painting example. And I think then we can explore, and I'd love to hear your visions and thoughts around it.
mm.
Okay, so what can we paint together with AI? What is the like? How does a co-creative future look like if we have different types of AI native interfaces, products, context situations, um,
Mm.
where we have autonomous then agents that can work with us.
Yeah. Immediately something comes to mind as which would be just an awesome moment to experience in co-creating with AI, which would be if I'm let's say I'm writing a text or doing whatever together with an autonomous AI agent, and the agent says, "Hang on, Martin, I have a great idea. Can I just try something? Like, just give me a minute. Let's I have this greatest idea. I'm going to show you what I mean." And so the AI is actually asking for a window of exploring something where it knows that it might be going out on a limb, taking a risk, but it can be worth it. So let's try it, and it's asking for that space. that would be awesome. Like it's also an awesome thing to do as a human when you're co-creating with other humans. And if an AI has the like the just the presence and the notion of context to that it can do that, it's allowed. That would be an awesome thing. That was just a random idea that came to my
Yeah.
mind. But now when you talked,
No, but I think that's like I think that also sort of relates back to some previous points we've covered on this podcast, which is like I think maybe we did it last time as well. Like, um, like what is the different elements of autonomy? And what you're describing there for me is kind of like, right, so now you are working on something and it understands the purpose and the context of that.
hmm.
And because it is autonomous and understands that, it can take initiative and come with an unasked for suggestion or
Yes,
idea.
yeah,
And that's very like different from using software, right? Rarely something happens without you doing it. I mean, I guess games would be the
yeah. It would
would
be
be
more
the
like,
exception.
yeah, in a game that would happen, and then that would be designed by a human, right,
Yeah,
for
but
that
it's
to happen.
interesting, like even in the
Yeah.
game, at least I don't know, now I haven't been a gamer for a long time
Mm,
really, but with my understanding, even at the current level of like, whatever Assassin's Creed or something,
mm.
if you're standing still, nothing happens. I mean,
Yeah,
ish. I
maybe
mean, I mean, things are moving
ish.
around you, but
Yeah.
like, no one's gonna come and like, let's go on an adventure, or like, if you're not doing, there's always like a feeling of I'm taking a step, and then
Mm,
the computer, so to say, is
yeah.
taking a step. Whereas what I'm sensing and what you're seeing and relating to like something that I really feel like would be co-creating with AI
Yeah.
is when it's indistinguishable from another person in the sense
Yeah.
that like when we're working together it's not like or let's put it another way, very often every week you come with you write me something unexpected,
Hmm.
but it's within your role at the company,
Yeah.
right, your CPO, and you come with an idea or you do something and then tell me about it afterwards. That's a very different thing from like me
Mm,
telling you do this and then you doing it and reporting it back to me. So it's
yeah.
that sense, I think, of like, okay, we're both working here to build this company, and
Mm,
yes, we've agreed maybe some role descriptions and some common purpose, because I think even AI will need, you can't just have well, I mean, maybe you can, but
mm,
at least for the foreseeable future, you'll have like an AI agent being a product manager or being something. It won't be the company and do everything in the company. If so,
mm,
it will split into sub agents anyhow. So the way we will interact with them will be specific. So that's kind of my sense of it. When it's indistinguishable, it's a co-worker, you know.
yeah.
And also, I think that puts some demands on AI native apps, and we've discussed this a lot, right, with some upcoming releases. Is that as long as we distinguish in the interface, if we're talking about software,
Mm,
between a person and an AI,
mm,
it's not true co-creation. It will be when we don't.
mm,
When the experience of it is, say, like being in a Google Doc together,
mm,
and then the AI is there as well, and it's just like, yeah, it's the AI probably, but
mm.
it still just like acts like another person in there. Um, that was pretty like high level, but I that was came after listening to you.
And so, would it be preferable if let's say, because I actually had exactly the experience what that you described, that you referred to with the game. Now the kids are on summer leave, so this week on Monday, when I was working at home, one of the kids in the house left their Xbox, like the game on Xbox, running, and just left and did something, and it became annoying because there was an NPC on the screen that said, like, what are we waiting for? And then it had like two more phrases, like, you're just standing there with a dumb look on your face. And then it said a third thing I can't remember. And then it started like
Yeah,
looping those three over and over. And in a game environment, I guess having three different phrases to like as a let's move forward thing is enough for the game. But so what would it look like? Let's say I'm in a Google Doc or I'm in Multiply working with an AI, and then I just leave, and the AI would not just repeat the same three phrases. It would be like, "Hey Martin, are you still there?" And then like, I'm just gonna go ahead and do the thing here while you're gone. Or like, what would be the preferable action? Like,
I
it
mean, I think that,
works for a while, and then it has a question it can't it needs to have answers, so it pauses and waits for more information, or comes back and said, I actually found that information online now, so I'm going to go ahead. I thought I needed you, but I don't anymore, so I'm just going to write the text we're
yeah,
working on.
yeah. And it's interesting. I mean, I think even that for me is like what you're describing is definitely co-creating with AI.
Yeah.
But like if you take it one step further, like it's a little bit like Google Maps, in my opinion. It's like I don't know how you were, but when I started using Google Maps, I didn't trust it. Like I know how to drive in my city. I
Mm,
know where when there's queues and stuff in different places, when
mm,
there's traffic. Um, but then like now, like I don't even bother. I
yeah.
just like follow what it does. And I guess that's not like the co-creative future, but I think it relates to like trust and
Mm,
trust enabling autonomy. And I think what you're describing is still like an initial state of trust when
it
it
is.
will
Yes.
it will like
Yeah.
ask you, you will
Definitely.
expect it and want it to, and I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Expect and want it to sort of to tell you what it's doing at all times,
Mm,
and then ask you questions and not take too bold actions like before you approve. But if you take that little step further, as you grow safe with this AI,
mm,
or this agent actually, this
mm,
social media manager agent that you'll
mm,
have in Multiply, uh, you know, after you see it's doing well, yeah, maybe sometimes you want to review its log of what it's done and stuff, maybe like you would do with a teammate, maybe.
mm,
I don't know, I don't do that. Uh, but like you'll like enjoy it much more when it comes to you and say, hey, I've increased social media reach by you know 1,000 people this week,
yeah.
and you just see the posts appearing in the social media channels, which is
Mm,
like what you would expect from a social media manager as a person. So I think that's like, but that's going to be a journey,
mm,
and I really think it will start where you described, and I think it will end up maybe further, but like at least where the way I describe it now,
mm.
sooner or later.
Yeah, I think that you're absolutely right that when you've built that certain level of trust, then there's no questions anymore, and maybe you start realizing, or you start knowing exactly what tasks are better that the AI agent does on its own, and where do you need to cooperate, and what is better that the human does on its own. So it sort of crystallizes after a while, um, and streamlines the co-creation, and and so initially, when you work on new tasks, it's much more hands-on, and a back and forth conversation about how should this look like, what are the objectives, what are the data to work from. And over time, uh, either the human or the AI becomes more and more autonomous to do its thing, and and uh, and that will also be a sign that we have achieved, uh, that we are in the future, that trust can evolve, that there's a corporation that evolves over time.
Yeah, and also like I think what you just described, like we just recruited a new or like we're testing to work with a new community manager. Uh, really feel good about him actually. And the reason I do is actually just what you described. It's that we started very strictly, like, hey, here's our content workflow. This is our podcast. We use it to do this and this. And we have a product update every week. And then he's like, it's very much back and forth, right?
Mm.
To
Yeah.
establish his
Yeah.
process and role description and iterate on it because obviously we weren't doing things perfectly. But I can already feel his autonomy increasing, and that means he has like more initiatives.
Mm.
And that doesn't necessarily mean, I mean, it means he asks less questions, but it doesn't necessarily mean we collaborate less. It's like
Mm.
working with another person. It's just like, the more, proficient you become in what you're doing, and the more trust there is between you, and the better
Mm.
the communication, the more you can get done and co-create together. So it's really that thing, like that. Um, and allowing that to be a natural process, I also think that is what you described now, and what I gave
Mm.
as a human reference. Uh, when it feels natural to work with AI,
Mm.
that's the future. People talk about natural language, but they end up prompting,
Yeah.
you know? and writing very like, in order to get good shit done, you need to like be
Yeah, and you
quite good
start
at prompting.
realizing in order to really get the right things done, you need to become more and more mechanic. And you like the prompts we are writing now often contains pseudo code, like because
Yeah.
it's more so much more specific and so much more dense in semantics if you write code instead of natural language. So prompting is actually a very mechanic action, and it will be always be at the core of working with LLMs, but we should not force users to become prompt engineers just to co-create with AI.
No, and I think you have another point there, which is like hidden in there, which is the difference between prompting is like it's a one-off instruction, and that's why I call
Mm,
all existing AI tools assistants. You tell it what to do, it does it. And you're quite like a micromanager in the sense that you
yeah.
prompt it, very specifically. Whereas if you have an autonomous agent that you can work with in the natural way I described with our new community manager, and therefore, so to say, the prompt doesn't need to be perfect because the AI learns from it. The
Mm,
agent learns from your process together and synthesizes the instructions into, for example, a role description, an objective or a list of objectives, a list of tools, etc., and also feedback on the actual, yeah, let's say content produced or like the things it's doing.
mm,
So I think that's like a really big thing in co-creation. I think you touched upon this before, like the difference between like, I don't know how you put it, but like basically these models are super smart already.
yeah.
They're smart enough already, to be honest, to
Mm,
do most things better than people. But their like intelligence is not enough to do something well. You need to also have like process and learning how to do something.
yeah.
Einstein couldn't, use Adobe Photoshop just because he's Einstein.
Mm,
He would have to learn it, and maybe he'd be bad, maybe he'd be good. But anyhow,
yeah. And this was also related to by Mark Zuckerberg in the Lex Friedman interview recently, like I guess last week, where Lex asked him about AGI, what is needed for AGI, and he said what I believe is true, like that we are actually at the level of intelligence needed. We just need autonomy, and so the next step of development will be autonomy, or rather, what would make AGI scary? Like intelligence
mm,
is already there. What can make it scary is autonomy, and it's scary because it's unknown. We don't know what happens, and I think that's why you and me are attracted to it, Rasmus. Like because we want
yeah,
to go there to explore and like carefully feel where are the limits and what are the possibilities of autonomous AI.
yeah, and it's interesting, like in terms of scary, actually. Yeah, I mean, a robot that does everything you do exactly when you tell it to, right?
Mm,
That's not scary. It's like if I had a daughter that listened to everything I said, I could sleep at the beach.
yes.
But I don't, so I keep an eye out because she's very independently minded. So she might do, like she doesn't often, but she might do something crazy.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's actually to the point. We're not scared of intelligence, actually. We're probably scared of autonomy
Yeah.
in the same way that, I mean, the scary thing with the kind of Russia-Ukraine situation, take a completely different
Mm,
angle, is we don't know what Putin's going to do.
mm,
We don't,
yeah.
right? And I'm not saying anything about it. I'm just saying that's the scary thing. The scary
Mm,
thing is the uncertainty. That's what scares people. That's what's really uncomfortable. Just like there's a lot of research on this. Um, but I also think like, I mean, I didn't listen to the Mark Zuckerberg interview, so I'm like speaking
no,
a
you
little bit in
should.
the
It's
dark
really
here.
great.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
made another example as well, which is speaks to your point about uh, intelligence versus autonomy, which is that if you think about a computer virus, that is software that is granted a lot of autonomy to move around in the world and spread freely and designed to do so, but it doesn't have a lot of intelligence, and
yeah.
so and it's an example of how intelligence is actually not needed to be scary or take over the world.
Wow. I hadn't even thought about LLM
Yeah,
powered viruses.
Yeah.
Shit, that's like a
Yeah,
really bad thing with like llama being leaked and stuff.
definitely.
Like,
It
and
can.
that and they're becoming smaller, so they're gonna be able to just like move around,
Yeah,
in like
and just
cookies.
and pay the it pays for server capacity at the lowest bidder provider.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, wow. But I think that's interesting because I think like we touched upon like what would that like because I'm like very optimistic of course in terms of like otherwise I wouldn't be building this. It's not only and I
Mm,
don't think it's for you either like pushing the limit, but it's actually because what it can bring. We've talked about that before. Like a co-creative future with like each other and AI is
mm,
can be like extremely abundant and beautiful. But I think it's interesting to sort of I think we should do a topic about that like an episode. Maybe not the next one, but like the scary stuff, but I need to read that deep down into like Eliezer Sudokovsky. I can't pronounce his name, but you know what I mean, and all those guys. Um, would be like an interesting
Eliza
topic to
Yudkowsky.
explore. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, we can talk about that. And but I really I feel into Noam Chomsky's notion of optimism being the best way to create a better future. And you have to be able to imagine the good things to create them.
Yeah, did you watch Tomorrowland, by the way?
No, no, what is that?
Oh,
Is it a
watch it.
movie
Yeah,
or a
it's a
series or what?
movie. It's a movie.
All
Oh,
right.
it's beautiful. No, it's it like this point.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to say anything else, but it's like the
Okay.
core point of the whole movie that you just
Awesome.
made, and
I
it's
will see that.
beautifully beautifully made, and I'd say pretty child friendly.
Yeah.
Pretty child friendly. Your kids definitely.
Cool. So I think we'll leave it off here, and we've talked about what will the future look like. How do we know when we are actually co-creating with AI for real? And also listen to Lex Friedman's interview of Mark Zuckerberg and watch the movie Tomorrowland.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, Martin. This has been fun.
Thank you, Rasmus. See you. I was gonna say see you next time, but I'll
See you
see
in
you later
like an
today.
hour.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. Thanks to the listener as well.